Today we're going to go through a quick project on how to convert a POSP scope from an AK lower mount to an SVD lower mount. Pretty simple project, really only 6 fasteners involved. You got 4 flathead screws on the front and 2 hex bolts on the back. First step is just to remove fasteners on the front. So take your flathead screwdriver and back these screws out. Below each screw you're going to find a lock washer. Make sure you hang on to that because you're going to want to use that when you replace the bottom mount. One thing you should notice too with the POSPs, depending on the batch and the production date, there's a couple different finishes to them. This particular model is what I would consider a gloss model. And the reason I point that out is the bottom mounts, when you switch them out, you want to make sure, at least you may prefer to have a finish as close to the original production as possible. So we do sell the lower mounts in a high gloss or just a standard matte finish. So you can get the right one to match your optic. Keep everything looking original. These rear bolts are going to be one of 2 sizes, either a 5/16 or a 7mm. I recommend actually purchasing a pair or a set of these wrenches. It's like anything, the right tool makes all the difference, and in this case if you try to use a pair of pliers, there's just not enough room behind here to really turn that screw or the bolt, and you're going to end up just marring the mount and making it look really bad. So it's worth the initial investment of a wrench, and you may actually already have this. But if not, I would recommend getting whichever size you need. Okay. So with that, you've got all the fasteners out, and it's just a matter of removing the lower mount. Sometimes that is fairly stubborn, so if that's the case, you may need to have a rubber mallet just to kind of get that to loosen up. It could be stuck on because of actual adhesive, or it could be dried paint. But in regards, you need to use sometimes a mallet to get that off. Now, the reassembly procedure, I recommend putting the 4 screws back in the front first, and the reason you want to do that is if you try to do the rear bolts first, there's really nothing to align those for you, and it's just more of a struggle than you probably need to go through. So by putting the fasteners, 4 fasteners in the front, you kind of get everything aligned for yourself first of all, and then you can put the back bolts in. You've got the fasteners on the front. It's time to put them back in the back again. So it's best to just kind of put a little tension on there with your finger, just enough to hold it in place until you get the threads to start. Once that's underway, you can go ahead and tighten it on down. Use your senses on this too. If the bolt feels like it's too hard to turn, it's probably cross-threading itself. It shouldn't take a whole lot of effort to turn these bolts. Threading on them is really good, and again, if you find that it's a little too hard to turn than it was when you took it off, there's a good chance you're cross-threading it, and you want to back that bolt out and start over again. This one back here, I always like to use a screwdriver as well, and this just takes the place of your finger, and really what you're trying to do is not pry it in there, but just give it enough pressure to where it's being pushed in and the threads will start to grab. And once it does grab, you don't need a screwdriver anymore. You just go ahead and tighten it on down. Alright, so with that, you've now converted a POSP from an AK mount down to an SVD. You can keep these parts because they are what we call hot swappable. So later on down the road, if you want, you can always put the AK back on there and make use of the optic again on your AK. One thing to point out too, while I've got them apart, if you notice the alignment of these screws, you're going to find that an AK mount sits about 11 millimeters lower than the SVD. So what that ends up doing is giving you more clearance on your top handrail. It's also important too, if you're going from AK down to SVD, that you actually lose those 11 millimeters and the scope becomes a lot tighter on the top of the rifle. It's just something to keep in mind. Again, simple procedure, probably took, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes to convert over. If you have any questions doing this, you can always contact us at kalinkaoptics.com or by email at info@kalinkaoptics.com. We appreciate your time.